gala. And I got to meet him, I got to spend some time with him, and I thought the idea was very intriguing. It was intriguing because I was now really beginning to get to learn the play so much, and one of the things about the play is that Lincoln had wit. Scott Bakula has wit. and you know, that was like, we have to find somebody who could do that. The other challenge is you need an actor that can fill this entire space. And let me tell you, that is very difficult. Even if they were not playing Mr. Lincoln, you know, it's something like this is quite a marathon, and it has a lot of demands. So, you know, I started, talking to Scott, who will be joining us momentarily, but it was really interesting because we were very excited about having him come, and I said, hey, in the summer you told me you wanted to come back to Fort, so here it is, an opportunity to do this. And he didn't say much, but, you know, I knew that his subtext was, hell no. It took many conversations, and interestingly enough, at some point, he was doing a show in New York. I went to have coffee with him, and it was really amazing because without saying, yes yet, he began to ask the right questions that an actor will ask, who am I going to be talking to, and who am I responding to? He said, do you know that it's 90 minutes I'm going to have to be talking, and so we began to organize our thoughts about how something like this gets done. I immediately said, one of the things that for me will be crucial is to create a soundscape that will play your scene partner. You will have at every second just about something to react to. There will be direct address, and there will be interactions with Mary and also with your cabinet. And all of a sudden it began to chisel away at the number of places where something like this was going to have to happen. And fast forward to several months later, Scott called me once, and I was really happy to hear from him. I said, so, how are you? And he says, oh, I'm just calling to see if you still want to do that little play that we're talking about. And I'm like, oh my God, Scott, is that a Bakula yes? He's like, that's a Bakula yes. From that day on, Scott has worked literally every hour of the day to really get this play right. He felt a great deal of responsibility. I wasn't too worried or scared, but for him, it's not only the responsibility of playing a president that everyone knows, and everyone has very strong ideas of what this person looks like and sounds like, but also playing that role in this space with a certain box right there. It's a very powerful reminder, and he really worked really hard to overcome what that means and to really channel it into a performance that I think will be remembered. So, I, for myself and the staff, we've loved having him here because he's very funny. I mean, it's incredible that in the midst of doing some of these speeches, which we all know, there was always a lot of laughter in the rehearsal hall, a lot of gratefulness for the presence of each other. And then when we got here to take the show, then we include the whole team that made the design and the sound and the lights and the costume, everything happen. And it was really wonderful to see it come together. So, anyways, I thank you all. Scott, if you're around, please come in. He's the one who can play with the audience. I'm like, I'm happy to see you, but I'm not really good at this. Anyways, does anybody have a question? Yeah, I put it
time for me. Thank you so much.
So
Hi, everybody.
Scott Bakula.
Hello.
So So I'm just going to have a couple of questions for him, but then, what we really want to do is have a dialogue with you. So, Scott.
What?
It's been 3 weeks. Oh my God. 3 weeks of performance. Of course, you've been here longer, but
Yes.
how does it feel now that you're on your last weekend with the show?
It feels a lot of things. I wish it was going on longer because I feel more comfortable with it than each night gets easier. Although every audience is different, and you guys were great today, by the way, with a fantastic audience. It's it's a weird thing to train your brain to do this kind of a piece, and then because it's not something you ever imagined training your brain to do. And then now that I've kind of trained it, then it's like, well, I don't want to, I can't I'm going to go to another one-man show next week to Ben Franklin in Philly. but so it's like, well, I kind of I know it's going to go away. I'm going to lose it. It's going to go away, and that's okay. But I feel so much more comfortable in the show because I'm not as worried about what's coming out of my mouth the next half second as I have been. And plus, half the people in the audience know half the speeches, so thankfully no one so far has corrected me when I've made a mistake. It's not on, it's upon. You're correct.
Yeah, I actually was a little nervous myself because I think on the original, I think the Gettysburg Address was condensed to 3 lines, and Richard wanted to put the whole thing on, and I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be like the Shakespeare Theater where people bring the text and highlight what the actor.
and then send letters in. I want my money back.
Yeah, exactly.
He left out the 3rd paragraph saying, no, 3 lines, that would have been nice. I wonder what 3 lines they were. Do you remember?
I'll email them.
Probably the last 3 lines or something.
No, there was, the first couple of lines for sure were...
4 years, that was it.
Yeah, because that, and then maybe
and then he jumped to the end. 4 years ago, and government for all.
So you see what I dealt with?
He messed me up because I had all these speeches and I was looking at the text and I thought, all right, well, I don't have to worry about that page. Those are speeches, and I'll have them on a little podium or something, and I'll just be able to read them. And then we got here, and he said, well, and then also Lincoln carried half his speeches in his hat. And I thought, well, that'd be clever. He's like, everybody does that. We're not going to do that. So you don't Gettysburg Address, you just say that. And then first inaugural, no, you just say that too. Second inaugural, just say, you don't get any script for that. So then I was madly trying to memorize all that stuff, which I had ignored, because you kept saying, don't worry about it, you're going to be fine.
And he was. I am going to introduce two of my colleagues. There's Erica here and then Kristen over there. They have a microphone. We want to turn it on to you. So if you want to ask questions, just raise your hand and one of them will go to you. And please speak the question clearly to Scott.
Hi, thank you, Scott. This was tremendous. So maybe I'm the only one that noticed it, but it seemed like as the show went on, you seemed to age with Lincoln, or you just kind of embodied it as you were young and old, and no one really knows what Lincoln's voice sounded like. So if you could just speak for a moment on your method of channeling his intonation and kind of aging him through his life.
Yeah, thank you. Well, no, we don't have any record. The good news is we don't have a record. Otherwise, that's not the good news. As an actor, then you copy it and you say, I'm going to do Churchill, and this is how Churchill sounded. We have recordings. But they wrote about his voice, and the descriptions were high-pitched and reedy. So, and also that he was not a particularly good orator, but obviously he wrote magnificently, and his words spoke for themselves. So we wrestled with the level of oration skills, and then just it was kind of just a wild, fun kind of exercise for me to just go everywhere vocally, all over the map, because I had the other characters that I could intonate at different times and give inflections to, in difference to the lovely northern newspaper that I read at the end of the piece. So I just had fun with that. I had fun with Lincoln was never known as a singer, but I just said I don't care because that was just a little nod. But I'm sure he sang because he loved the musicales, and he would sneak into the back of the theater and sit down and watch when people wouldn't know he was there. So we took some liberty with all that stuff, and the nature of and again, this is the things that the longer I would do it, the more I would get better at the aging in the process. I originally wanted to do the show, and thank goodness you talked me out of it. Well, actually, you said no. But I wanted to not only age. You notice we added a bunch of clothes and stuff, just trying to give as much character and variety for you all to sustain yourselves also visually. And one of the ideas that I had originally was that we would also start without a beard and add the beard, because we had a mechanism. I can't talk between shows, but hopefully I can talk to this beard is a super cool kind of device that you can slap on in like 2 seconds. And I had a place where I was going to do it. It was going to be so cool, and all of a sudden I was going to turn around and you'd have a beard on, and people would stand and cheer. And he said no, because he wanted to start. We started the show not as a young man until that blinding moment. And so I said, I can take it off. I can do the blinding moment. I can step back and I can do this. I can put it off and put it in my pocket. And then later on, I come back to the desk and I pull one out of the desk drawer or up here, and I get a drink of water. The beard on, and then and it would become like a magic show. I never knew Lincoln was a magician, or that he could grow a beard that fast. It's amazing the stuff you learn at Forest. So anyway, that's all. It was just, a lot of it. I kind of just take in what comes through and try and interpret it, and I don't know where that stuff comes from. But if you're open for it, you can usually channel.
Yeah, I do want to add something that was really a discovery for me, that when he has the flash and he turns around and he sees himself as a young man in the Mississippi River, Scott physically, vocally, he became a young man. I mean, and this was, we didn't have the beard, it was just we were in rehearsal. And then it's like he begins the aging process to the presidency, to some of the iconic moments when he gets elected and all of that. And the body just followed, so that was nothing, not too much that I had to direct. I just noticed it, and it just continued to evolve, and it's very clear. So thank you for noticing.
Thanks.
Yes.
Hi, Scott, I just wanted to let you know I've lived in the Washington, D.C. area for 35 years and never come to a play twice within 1 week until this one.
Thank you.
My husband and I saw this play on Wednesday, and I had fallen. Unbeknownst to me, I had broken my arm, but I wanted to see you so much I came anyway, and then went to the hospital and the arm was broken. So we wanted to come back today so that I could see you without the searing pain that I experienced. But the question that are really the comments,
That was you moaning in the audience on Wednesday night?
But I just have to tell you, the feeling that I was able to experience both times from your portrayal, I felt when you were talking in character about the woman on the sales block. I felt that. And one of the things that I think was helpful for that was the very simple wardrobe changes that were made to sort of take us from one place to another. And my actual question here is, how did you come up with this idea of a minimal sort of wardrobe change that transported us in time so effectively?
Well, those are all wonderful things. And so today you're here on meds, so you really like the show. Thank you for coming twice in the same week, and that's a very nice compliment, because there's a lot of wonderful theater in this town, for sure. This guy is, was instrumental and unrelenting about how can we make, especially the early experiences, real as possible. So because we have to get from that moment, this little moment over here by the river with the gentleman with the 12 slaves, starts that, but it gets cemented by that moment, and then we have this speech about everybody has certain turning points in their lives. And it's funny, you think about that. If you just apply that to your own life, you can think about, I remember the time I decided that I would turn left instead of right, and da-da-da-da-da. We all have those moments. And you're looking at your husband there, I guess, saying, I remember the moment that he said, yeah. But you have those moments, and so we had to make that, because the whole play kind of hangs on that. And that's maybe license that we took, but certainly Lincoln had an unbelievable devotion and a passion to freeing the slaves that he carried. Where it came from, we chose to make it kind of that the moment, that be the moment. But Jose was just, determined to, and we worked on it so much. And I'm grateful that we did, because I feel it every night. I feel, and the soundscape that comes along with the show that helps just set the mood and the tone. That was also all of him and our beautiful Sarah, who did all of the sound stuff. And they worked. That's another acting partner that I have. I mean, I'm grabbing the straws up here. I'll take anything. I need anybody. I need you guys. I need I need the clothes. I need the sound. Everything. So. And then you can answer that question, because I'm going to get one little piece of illustration here. I'll be right back.
Yeah. I want to give credit to Veronica Stevens. Veronica was our costume designer. And, really, yes. A couple of things. First of all, everything that you see him wear was actually handmade, stitched for him. It's a very thorough design that looked into fabrics, the equivalency of fabrics that he would have used back then. The frock coat, the interior coat, the vest, all of that was made. So when Veronica and I don't even know that you were cast yet, but her first instinct when she read the play was to ask me, oh my God, we're gonna put him in the hat and the iconic look, and I'm like, that's the story that you need to tell us, how we go from, a very poor person all the way to the iconic look, all the way to him being the president, and when do we reveal that? We decided to not reveal it until after the election, when he arrives in Washington, and that's when we first see it. So all of that was just planned, and then during rehearsal, he had to play with it. And there were other pieces that he took off and put on. And, oh my, yes! Look at that! Oh my God, Kristen didn't like that at all. But
so we worked hour after hour in rehearsal. Let's see, we had all the different pieces of clothing hanging on this clothing tree. We had a place for the hat and the scarves and this, and then I would go up and I would change it, and we spent hours coordinating it. Where's the best place for that scarf, and when you're going to come over there and get the coat from that side that's going to be over there, and the hat's going to be down there. And we got here the first night, and they said, we're not using that tree rack. Now I know who it was who killed the tree rack. So then we had to figure out, now what are we going to do? And we ended up with what we ended up. But that's what rehearsal's for. And that's what producers are for.
I think we have time for one more. So one more question. I saw her hand way in the back. So sorry. Oh, sorry.
Two more.
We'll do short answers.
Mr. Bakula, aka Mr. Lincoln today,
My daughter and I, we are fellow St. Louisans. And we just wanted to thank you for honoring the history of our city and your dedication to craft. And we had just a small memento, and I don't want to scare anyone, but it was just, it's celebrating the St. Louis artist John Pills, and the architecture in St. Louis is so historic, descendants of Richardson and Wainwright, and if you would just accept this with our
Thank you. I will.
our honor and our appreciation, and thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for that. Oh, you're right there. Okay. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm your audio describer, so I spend my time way up in the ceiling.
Yes, you do.
I've seen the show 4 times now, and I would agree with anybody who's seen it more than once, literally better every single time. And the first time I saw it, the coat rack was there, so that made it into my pre-show notes, which is kind of funny.
Oh, okay.
But my question is, how much did you know about Lincoln when you kind of first started talking to Jose about the show and everything? Were you a student of or knew anything about, and what was the point at which you went, oh, hell yeah, I'm doing that?
Well, I wanted to do it from the beginning. I had a scheduling problem that seemed possibly insurmountable. But I grew up in Missouri, so right next door is Illinois. So we knew as kids growing up a lot about Lincoln, because that was, we learned about Mark Twain and all the famous people from our area of the country. But I didn't. You know how many books there are stacked up in that across the street in the pyramid that have been written about Lincoln. So I know and still know a fraction of Lincoln, but I've always been a great admirer of him, and I'm honored and grateful to have had this opportunity. And I hope that, and I feel like we have done a really good job of presenting a segment of him, a piece of him, chunks of his life and things in a different way, a new light, and I'm thrilled to have been a part of that. I learn something every day, and Richard, who knows everything, I just say, tell me about this kid, and tell me about what was Stanton like, and what's my relationship with Chase, and and he would just be like that, and I kind of gave into that because I didn't have a chance. As soon as you get to, you're playing Lincoln, and people start sending you books. I can't. I have a book to read, and it's 36 pages long, and it's me talking till I'm blue in the face, and that's all I can read right now. It's just that over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. But it's just been a really great honor and privilege. And I'm grateful to everybody, Kristen and everybody, and Jose for who's been dreaming the show, wanting to bring this to life for a long time, and then decided that I could do it with him. So it's just been a really challenging. I just turned 70 a couple days ago, and it's like, how's my brain doing? So it's okay. but I like challenges, and this one felt, in light of everything that's going on in our country and in front of an election, it just felt important and relevant and necessary. So I'm glad we were involved. Anybody else? No, that's it. I know there's one. This gentleman had a question. We'll answer real fast. Then we'll do some other stuff. Yeah.
I was just curious, there's obviously Lincoln the icon, but you also did a really good job of bringing to life Lincoln the man, and to kind of build off of that previous answer, I'm curious if there are elements of the man that you now feel that you relate to, having gotten a bit of an opportunity to get to know him better.
Yeah, well, I think that's something that, Jose, that's the other one of the things that hooked me about doing this, was that it wasn't going to be just speech after speech. We were going to look at his the cracks in his armor, you know, and I didn't know that much about him. He is such a huge icon around the planet that I forget you know all the numbers, but how many people come to this theater every year from all over the world. And so to kind of peel back, he's a man. I feel this way about all of our presidents and people, world leaders, that how they get up in the morning and face what they have to face with a smile, and they're good actors. We all know that. I was so intrigued by his melancholia and his love for his wife and those kids and the losses in his life and his passion about different certain things that meant more than anything in his dreams. And that was the most, I wasn't like, oh, I can't wait to, recite the Gettysburg Address. It was like, how do we explore the man and bring him to life and show that we forget. It's easy to forget that Lincoln and, we peel back some of pull back the curtains on some of our presidents in the past and found things that maybe we didn't want to find. But there's a real human here that somehow rose above. And so it touches me every night, and I have kids, and just going there and thinking about that every night is a challenge, because it hurts. And having friends that have lost kids when they were very young, and I have been through that with them, so I just thought that was worth it to me, to bring him down to relatable. His humor is, he's so wacky, and he really is. He's just take a left turn, some of these stories that he comes up with there, and I love that. And I just said right from the beginning, go for the funny, let's go for that. And he wanted to let's dig into who he was as a human being, and not just the icon. And I think we mixed it up pretty good.
One of the things that I remember talking, you asked me, and I just thought, it would be interesting if we take this play, and when people leave the theater, they've learned something about him. But in order to illuminate that, there are certain moments in the piece that needed to get some weight, emotional weight. And for example, to learn that during the Civil War, he didn't eat, he didn't sleep, that he carried so much all these years with him. And that moment when he tells one of his cabinet members, or one of his, if I didn't use this levity, my heart will break. We played with that, and I said to Scott, land it, just let us see him almost coming apart at the seams, because he's gonna pay off. And it's incredible, the whole moment, the joke that he just told about the blonde end and all of that, it just all of a sudden makes sense. Makes sense that he was just a person with incredible depth of feeling, and that he psychologically was so vested into every moment and every person of this country. Love the fact that, although he was, again, the president of the Union, he was the president of the whole country, and gives time to the people of the South. The father that lost a son for each side, all of those things. I mean, it was him digging and exploring deeper to see what the meaning of that. And hopefully, my goal is that when you leave here, I always, I became a theater director always thinking that I'm a storyteller. And if I can change in a production the run of the show, just one person's mind learned something, then I have done my job. And I think collaborating with him has made this very easy. So,
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.